Good morning, boys and girls. The first thing I want to say is I really miss y'all in class, and I'll be glad when we can get back into classes with each other. I'm going to start a lesson today that we are continuing from the studies that we have had. We're going to be studying about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and in your Bible, you will find it in Daniel chapters 2, 3, and 4. So if your parents want to get with you to study the lesson, you can go to Daniel 2, 3, and 4. I want to do a little review with you. The first thing I want us to talk about, and this is something we do talk about in class quite a bit, is the greatest command. How many of you remember what the greatest command is? If you can remember it, if you can say it with me, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And let's say that again. Love the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then, of course, the second one is love your neighbor as yourself. And if we do those two things, if we love the Lord, we put Him first, and then love our neighbors, then that takes care of everything, and we'll be obeying God. I want us to talk about our memory verse. Our memory verse comes from Daniel 3:17. And if you can want to look that up and read it and learn it, that would be great. Daniel 3:17 says, "We might be thrown into the blazing furnace, but the God we serve is able to bring us out of it alive." And of course, this is talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. As we've talked about before, and in our lessons before, we've talked about the fact that at this time, the Israelites were in Babylonian captivity. And they were there because they had disobeyed God. Because of their disobedience, the Babylonians had come in and they had taken the people into captivity as slaves. And we want to make sure that we remember that the reason they were being punished was because of disobedience. Now, when they get there as slaves, 3 of the men, their names were changed to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they were there in Babylon as slaves. The king there was King Nebuchadnezzar. And we're going to start with him building an idol. And we have talked about idols in the past and the fact that God says we are not supposed to build those. We're not supposed to worship those. And King Nebuchadnezzar builds this very tall, big idol. And he says to everyone that they have to bow down and worship that idol. And we know that to worship God, we're not supposed to do that. And then King Nebuchadnezzar tells them, well, if you do not bow down to this idol, then we're going to throw you into a fiery furnace. Well, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego loved God, and they refused to worship the idol. They had a great faith in God, and they wanted to do what God had asked them to do. They knew that God would not be pleased if they worshiped the idol. So when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would not bow down to the idol, King Nebuchadnezzar had his men heat the furnace 7 times greater than it normally was. 7 times greater. That means it was very hot. They threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into the fire. But God didn't let the fire burn them or harm them in any way. When King Nebuchadnezzar went to check on the men, he saw them and he realized that the fire had done nothing to them. And he also realized that it was their God, the God that had created the heavens and the earth, that had saved them from this fiery furnace. And he was so surprised that King Nebuchadnezzar also became a believer in God. Now, I'm going to ask a couple of questions and see if you can answer them. True or false? Listen carefully. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into the fiery furnace because they would not bow down to the idol. Is that true or is that false? And of course, we know that that is true, that they were thrown there because they would not bow down to the idol. And then the second question is, who saved Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego from being burned or killed in the fiery furnace? And what is the answer to that? Of course, that was God. That is our lesson for today. And I am so glad to be able to do this for you. I'm going to finish up. Even though this is a lesson from the Old Testament, I want us to finish up with the Books of the Bible song for the New Testament. So we're going to finish up with that, and I'll hope to see you soon. I love all of you. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Acts and the letter to the Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians and Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus and Philemon, Hebrews, James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st and 2nd and 3rd John, Jude, and Revelations. I love you all.